what I'd like to do, we put together a short video. I know we've got a really short spotlight area, but instead of me just talking about it, we used 3 of the subject matter experts, the folks that will actually use this application for Chevron, that we're going to show as part of the conversation this morning. So can you get that kicked up?
We've been doing risk assessments the same way for 30 or 40 years. Things change, and I think we need to be better at using data and analytics and machine learning, and to me, this is the future.
The ultimate goal in the risk assessments is to understand the hazards that are out there and then understand the safeguards that we have in place to mitigate or eliminate those hazards.
Our vision is to use these tools to help every business unit to understand the highest risk consequence.
IRIS uses knowledge graphs and artificial intelligence. It scans the data that we have and tries to bring relationships together, keyword searches.
It will give us a more realistic view of our risk assessments. Right now we revalidate them every 5 years, but this will be kind of an evergreen process where if we do maintenance on or we don't do maintenance on a safeguard, then we can see how it affects the risk that we're seeing in the facilities and around Chevron.
We still need those subject matter experts, those people participating in the risk assessments. We call IRIS another voice in the room. It's to make sure that if we're documenting a scenario, we're documenting it correctly. Do we have the consequence correct? We have the risk ranking correct?
Chevron, our business is energy. So just partnership with Spark Cognition help us create tools to keep our business moving on.
Working with Spark Cognition has been great. It's been a great team, interrogating the data that we have in our IT systems, loading it into IRIS. Lots of lessons learned, especially from data across asset classes, and also using the tool for facilitator competency.
I'm really excited to see how the tool works in the field, and this is a tool that can continue to grow even after we release it. In my opinion, I think it could make a huge difference.
This is the future. I see IRIS as a way to continue the evolution.
I think using IRIS is going to change the way we do risk assessments. So yeah, we see a bright future ahead of us.
Thank you, guys. So for the next hour and 45 minutes, we're going to go in detail of everything that we've done in this project. So buckle in. We're going to go through this now. So when we think about any form of risk assessment, right, we evaluate, you go, and it's just a vicious circle all the time. One of the key things is the data, right? I read a book recently. It's my favorite quote. I use it in project meetings all the time. If we have data, we'll use it. If it's an opinion, we'll go with mine. And sometimes when we have folks that facilitate it, we put them in that situation. They're subject matter experts. They know a ton, but they may only know a ton in that one facility. And so that's where we're leveraging IRIS to really take a look at how do we help that facilitator? How do we help the team? I can tell you sometimes we have a team that's there and they know that facility back and forward. But knock on wood, thank goodness, in our industry, we've gotten better at these catastrophic process safety events. Some of our younger engineers and our younger facilitators, they haven't, fortunately, had to experience a bad day. And so how do we help them to understand, and how do we connect that information across the whole company? And so that's where we use the computational knowledge graph technology and the modeling piece. It's not just putting the data in one place and now I have to sort through, thousands upon thousands of lines of data, and that adds to already a 6-week facilitated operations loves those. And so what we're trying to do is, and what we are doing and what we've proven, is that putting that information in, understanding those safeguards, that IRIS will look across the company. So we programmed it with, you saw the risk matrix, everyone's got some form of matrix. And so what IRIS will do is take a look at the similarities, take a look at safeguards, which are key. If whatever safeguard you claim, it has to work. And in our industry, it has to work every single time, or else something bad happens. And so what IRIS has done is taken a look at that, and it starts to look at the scenarios that are simple and that are similar. So instead of starting most risk assessments, we start with what's the worst thing that can happen. And it's always fire, death, destruction, loss of containment, all of those things. And then you start whittling that down. Have you seen that in this facility? No. Have you seen that in our industry? No. Have you seen that and it's only as smart as the people in the room. And those are very smart people for what we're working on and what risk assessment we're doing. But how do you know it hasn't happened somewhere else in your company? And that's what the great thing about IRIS is that it is that one source of truth. And so the work that we've been doing, we test it on, I'll give you an example, like a small gas facility. And so we run it through IRIS. And so IRIS comes up with a list of scenarios that says, hey, did you think about this? There's something similar over here. It's using that artificial intelligence. There's something similar over here in an LNG refinery on an offshore platform that has something similar. Now the conversation is different. The conversation is, do we have these safeguards? Is this different? Instead of, what's the worst thing that can happen? Very open-ended. What's the worst thing can happen? Fire, destruction, that sort of stuff. So it starts to have a different conversation in that room where you're proving that this doesn't create the same scenario. This doesn't have the impact that is the worst thing that can happen. So in the oil and gas, especially in this risk space, this is truly innovative for us in Chevron and I think in oil and gas, because we do risk assessments in the same way across all of our industry. We may have on an iPad, but you're still doing it. And so what we're showing you here is that is that second voice in the room. Same as what we heard what the general talked about this morning, is we're not going to replace that facilitator. We can't replace that information, but we can arm them with a better look across and even outside of industry. Has this happened somewhere else? What makes this different that we won't have this? So I've got a real example, and I can't claim that IRIS would have prevented it, but in my heart, I feel like it would. So we had a situation in 2019 in one of our facilities. Low risk work. As a spotter, can't get more low risk than go stop, right? So we did, the normal things, investigations. They did the risk assessments, they did the permits, they did all of these things. But what they didn't have is data. What they didn't have was IRIS, where in 2017, there was an audit, and there was captured in that audit file, in that audit scenario, that this was not a safe action. If you put it side by side, it's almost the exact same scenario. So if you think about a world where IRIS says, hey, wait a minute, permit filler outer. We had this documented in this audit 2 years ago. What makes this different so that we're not going to have a repeat incident? And I think for me, that is the biggest thing around the decision making and integrating the AI piece and the modeling piece of IRIS into the human aspect of a risk assessment. That's really, I'm trying to get y'all to the break. I know, I'm at least I'm not before lunch, right? That's it. But we're very excited of the work that we're continuing to do in this space. We've got some of the project team here as well with Spark Cognition on how this is going to change the way that we look at risk and how we are getting to a place to where we know those safeguards are in place and functioning in the right way. We'll be able to tie this into our asset integrity data, our maintenance data, our permits, our audit data, our incident data. And when we tested this out with some SMEs in the business units, right, the guys and girls that would actually use this, I think my most proudest moment that this project was going to continue with them is they didn't say, what am I going to do with this? They said, what about this? Can we connect this? We need this. What about this? And so our answer to all those things were yes in time. We've got to get through these MVPs. But for us as a project team, that really showed that these guys and these people that are going to use this, that this is something that they felt like that is going to change and improve the way they work. So thank you guys for your time this morning.